Hey everyone, welcome back to the arena. I'm MD, joined here by Covey, and once again, a really special guest that we can't wait to delve into a conversation with. First and foremost, love and appreciation to those who are listening. And yeah, can't wait to have this conversation.
What's going on, guys? Like MD said, we've got another super fun guest, and this is great because we just had on a dating coach somewhat recently. We haven't released it yet, but we were releasing it soon, and it's from a man's point of view. He's a men's dating coach for men from a man's point of view. So this will be cool. This is Blaine Anderson. So if you can't figure out, Blaine is a men's dating coach and founder of Dating by Blaine. She appeared on Shark Tank and has also appeared in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Forbes, CNN, among many other places. So, Blaine, first of all, thank you so much for being here, for giving us your time and sharing a little bit more about yourself and what you do and why you do it. Without further ado, why don't you just provide a little overview of like who is Blaine Anderson and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. As you already said, my name is Blaine. I'm a dating coach for men. I help men build confidence, create chemistry, and find and date awesome women that they are excited about. I do occasionally one-on-one coaching, but my primary business is courses. So I have courses that range from texting to online dating to approaching women in person to my master class, which is the whole enchilada, everything you need to know to meet and date women in the modern age.
So, I think the natural first question, at least for me, is how did you get into this? Like, and why do you do what you do?
Yeah. So I got into it during the pandemic. This business is my pandemic baby. I worked in the travel industry before, and when the pandemic hit, my business went to zero overnight. I worked for myself then also. And for a long time, I had done coaching or like helping guy friends with their dating app profiles, giving them advice, just like on the side as something I enjoyed doing. I would help my friends. They would put me in touch with their network. So I'd help guys like upgrade their dating app profiles, and I really enjoyed it. And what made me so passionate about it is I knew these men, and I was like, wow, you have a ton going for you. You're an awesome guy. You would make a great partner. And then I would see their dating app profile and be like, this is not reflective of all of your awesome qualities. Like, let's fix that. And that oftentimes overflowed into even how they excuse me, that often overflowed into how they presented themselves on dates and with women as well. So then I'd advise them there. So when the pandemic hit and I was thinking, okay, is there something else I can do at least until this business, my original business, comes back? Okay, I could teach more men all of these things I'm already teaching to my friends and their acquaintances if I package it into a course. So I really didn't see this being a full-time thing. But then when I made this course and I started actually putting it in front of people and seeing the results that they were getting and how much guys valued it and wanted it and needed it, I was like, oh, okay, this is actually something I really enjoy doing and something that there seems to be a strong need for. So that's really how it all started.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting because the part I caught on to, because how you framed it was like, okay, COVID happened, travel business goes down, and I just created a business, you know? But I think what gets maybe a little bit lost in that story subtly is like how scary it can be to start a new venture. And
Totally.
one of the things I read recently was, one of the things that can help somebody reduce that fear or make that not feel like such a long gap are small pieces of evidence that like you can do this, that you can add value, that you can help people. So how much of your confidence to like launch this business actually started from some of those small evidences of, helping some of those guys on the side, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also, if I had been faced with, I need to find something that is going to be my new business forever and sustain my life forever, that sounds a lot more intimidating than when I was able to say, like, oh, this is something I'm just going to do for a little bit. And then obviously it ended up being my forever business, or at least for now business, and taking off. But I didn't put that pressure on myself to to discover that and, commit to that in the beginning.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I got a little bit scared when you're like, well, this person's really personable. You're a great guy, but then I saw your profile, dating profile, and it's like, uh oh. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, ooh, I might have some work to do there because I think I'm proud of the person I am, but I'm like, maybe my
Yeah.
dating profile doesn't reflect that.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen literally thousands of dating app profiles at this point, and I am struggling to think of a single one that was put in front of me, and I said, it's perfect. Leave it exactly like it is. Literally, I never say that. There's always small and subtle things that we can do or try to better represent who you are and, up level the online dating game, which is hard.
Are there any common trends on, maybe where the misses are early on in people's dating profiles, whether it's like lacking authenticity or anything of that sort?
I mean, the most common and what I feel like should be obvious one, but I still see it day after day, is just bad pictures.
What's a bad picture?
Not high quality, grainy, not recent, anything that's a selfie or in the mirror, or we can't clearly see what you look like. And then you don't just need one good picture, you need six good pictures that highlight who you are, how you spend your time, showcase, things that go on in your life, not just six headshots. Um, so yeah, that's definitely the biggest mistake I see guys making.
I latched on to the part. I haven't done this, but I've experienced this on the other end where people maybe post things from years ago,
Yeah.
and then you see them in person, and I don't want to say it's totally unrecognizable, but you're almost like, that's who I'm going out with. So yeah, that part can be really really frustrating as I guess the dater, being the one
Totally. I
that's
think that happens both directions. Men, women, everyone does. Like everyone faces that challenge.
um, so I feel like at least I'm trying to think about our last dating coach, how he kind of stumbled into this space, and I think
Was it?
John Keegan,
Hmm.
he knew who you were. Um,
Awkward.
so John, if you're watching this,
Sorry.
you were fantastic.
Blaine now knows who you are.
Yeah, no, I know.
And maybe there'll be you guys can bounce ideas off each other and collaborate. Who knows? But like, how has your experience with dating been? Like, I would almost think that a lot of people become dating coaches because they're so frustrated with how things are going in their own personal lives, and then they want to help others kind of get
Yeah.
with what they struggled with. So just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, so I'm married. I've been married for a few years, and I started this business after meeting my husband. But I wouldn't say I necessarily struggled dating. It was more like I saw my guy friends who I knew were really awesome struggling dating, and I was like, you guys should have thriving love lives, and you don't. Let's figure this out. But I did date. So I met my husband in 2018, and I was, 29. So I had a lot of dating experience prior to that. I've lived all over the world on almost every continent and dated while I was living in all those different places. So I do have a lot of insight into what it's like to date across cultures, across countries, in different environments. And the interesting thing is it's not that different. If you're talking about Western cultures, at least, like, yeah, sure, it's like slightly different in Latin America and there's definitely nuances. But from a dating coach perspective, the fundamental truths of what you need to do to attract a quality partner are pretty much the same.
Do you have a perspective on just, I guess, like between online dating and using dating apps versus doing the whole organic, old school, fashioned way of
Yeah.
like walking up to the person, catching all of these cues that you talk about in your content? Because I know you said you talk about like working with people's profiles. Is part of what you suggest like, hey, maybe get away from the online dating and go a different route? Do you have a preference? Are there pros and cons to each side that you maybe
Totally.
consult on?
Yeah, definitely pros and cons to both, and I like to think they're both sort of necessary if you want to be putting your best foot forward. I say that dating apps should be about 20% of your dating effort at max. And I think people get that backwards a lot, or even, 90% of their dating effort is going into apps, and that is a mistake. You're beholden to this algorithm and a lot of things that are out of your control that women are filtering for or swiping on. Maybe you just don't take that good of photos. Dating apps aren't going to work well for you. So I like to tell people that, dating apps at max 20% and the other 80% should be put towards meeting people in real life, developing your skills, flirting, developing your approach abilities. And yes, they're a necessary evil. Dating apps are a great way to get in front of more women that you wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to meet, but they should never be where you spend the majority of your focus and time. And that's actually why I just launched a brand new course that is quickly becoming my most popular course called Approach Academy. And it is all about approaching women IRL and making connections and then understanding if it is a good opportunity to ask for the phone number, ask for the date, how to do that, and then how to move to a date. Because it's not easy. I'm not here saying like, oh, it's so easy, just go do it. It's absolutely not. It's why, this course has become so popular, but it is what women want.
Well, it's incredibly difficult. Well, I could speak from experience, but also I feel like broadly, beyond just my experience, it's perhaps even becoming increasingly difficult and we're talking about a straight man walking up to a straight woman in that specific regard. What have you just noticed or observed of that space as to why it's become so complicated, whereas you would think that over time things should be getting easier for humans, not more difficult?
Well, so I think there's a lot of reasons it's more complicated. And I think a huge one is our dependence and reliance around technology. We're so accustomed to sitting behind a screen. COVID made that way worse. Everyone has their head down in their phone. So if a guy is looking to approach a woman, there's a good chance she has her head down in her phone and she has her headphones on, which makes it more difficult for him. And then there's a lot of men who I work with and talk to who have lost a lot of confidence in their ability to have in real life interactions because they spend so much time behind their screen. You can literally do everything from behind a screen and never have to leave your house and have gourmet meals, a great job, be in shape, and you've never even, interacted with a human being. And that was not possible even 15 years ago. So it just makes people so much less confident when they do need to do that. And then you throw in a romantic interest to it, and it's way scarier.
Yeah, and I think the problem is a lot of those people never had confidence to begin with, and then you throw on top of the fact that you have the whole digital age, which makes it even more difficult, and so people have just never had to do it.
And then guys are worried about being creepy, and they've seen all this in the media of women who are saying this guy did this, it was disgusting, or he was creepy, and they're like, I literally have guys like, that's the number one reason guys tell me that they're fearful of approaching is they're worried about being creepy. And I think some of that stems from a very important movement, but the Me Too movement, which has put in their heads like, oh, like I can't do anything, I can't interact with women like in a way that, or something bad might happen, or I might be perceived wrong.
Can we stay there for a second? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the biggest fear for me is the fear of rejection. Like, I actually view myself as very personable. I don't ever feel that I'm going to be creepy, if you will. My biggest fear is like the fear of the unknown. Like, what are they going to say? How are they going to react? Are they going to walk away? Are they just... There's so much unknown there, and I think the fear of judgment and rejection for me, when I have... Because I've been able to do it, but when I haven't and that fear's gotten in the way, that's been the reason. So you were going to say something?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to stick on that point because I want to now understand from your point of view, because we talked to the male point of view earlier.
Yeah.
Where is that line drawn? Because there are creepy people, there are creepy behaviors.
Totally.
We don't want to discredit that exists, and so like help us understand just how fine that line is, if not at all, and like where is that line drawn?
So, a few things on that topic. One is, from what I have seen, usually the guys who are worried about being creepy aren't the ones who are creepy, or the ones who are actually being inappropriate. Secondly, if you are approaching a woman as a human being who you are trying to get to know and have just a regular conversation with, then you don't need to worry that you are going to cross any lines of being inappropriate. There's really no reason to approach a stranger with any sort of sexual connotation or physical touch, which are the two ways that you could be inappropriate or creepy or do something that is going to make her uncomfortable. So if you aren't, and those things don't belong in approaching. You can make sexual comments with someone you're dating, or you can touch someone intimately or touch someone at all who you're like already on a date with if you're like reading the signs and building up to it. But neither of those things have a place in approaching a stranger.
Yeah, it's interesting because when we talk to our friend John, his whole thing, he doesn't use dating apps. He doesn't teach that part of his is all focused on in person, going up to approaching women. And a lot of what he talked about, which I thought was helpful, was detaching from any sort of outcome. So going in with any sort of preconceived, like, well, if this happens, it's success. If this happens, it's a failure. Like the idea of going in and potentially meeting a friend. You might go in with, and I think that was really helpful for me. So I think a lot of it comes down to, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but just your intentions and why you're doing it.
Your intention shouldn't even be to get a phone number because you haven't exchanged any words with this woman yet. So, you shouldn't be thinking, oh, I want to get her phone number until, okay, we've established some sort of connection. She appears to be interested back in me. Okay, now next step is like, let's get a phone number. But your first step is literally just opening a conversation with a human.
That's hard. What about at the gym though? Because here's my thing. Hear me out. I recognize, and myself included, I'm at the gym to work out. And so I try to like very clearly preface when I go up to someone at the gym that, hey, I know you're at the gym. I'm here too. I'm not trying, but it's nice, nice to meet you. Would love to like get to know you better over coffee, whatever it might be. Can I have your number, from the perspective of like, let's keep this very brief. This is not a place generally where I think people generally want to be approached or at least have a long conversation with. So would love just your thoughts there in that example.
I met my husband at the gym.
It's possible.
Yeah. And I actually, so I have the exact playbook of how you should do it, and it's not what you're doing.
It's worked sometimes. I've got on dates from it.
I'm happy to hear it. What I would recommend is if you're walking directly up to her, I really don't ever say like walk directly up and be like, hey, and definitely don't acknowledge that it's weird and then still ask for her phone number. What I'd say is just talk to her and get to know her. The gym is like going to be a longer game. So the first time you talk to her, this is like how I met my husband. It's just like, hey, like I've seen you here a few times before. I wanted to introduce myself. It's so nice to meet here. Oh yeah, what classes do you do? Whatever. Like, okay, short question. Nice to meet you. I'll see you around. Then the next time you're both at the gym, she now knows who you are. You can just say like, hey, acknowledge her. How's it going? Maybe you have a brief conversation. Maybe you don't if you're both in the midst of things. And then it's, the third time you see her, or, it depends on how those conversations go. And if you feel a connection, if she's showing interest back in you, if she goes out of her way to wave to you. But after multiple interactions, then it's like, it's been great running into here. What would you think of getting together outside of the gym sometime? Like, I would love to take you out for drinks or whatever it is. Ideally, it's something you have connected over in conversation. But what I always recommend, basically, if you're walking up to somebody and immediately asking for the phone number, that is a Hail Mary. It might sometimes work, but even if she's single and could be interested in you, she doesn't know you. So she's going to be more likely to A, give you her phone number, and then B, actually go on a date with you if you can take the time to establish a little bit of trust and connection first. So that's my theory.
And I will say, in the scenario where it did work, there was a little bit, there was more than what I kind of alluded to. There was some back and forth originally. I said see you around. 30 minutes later, I went back up to her because I had a gut feeling.
Yeah.
And then I asked, hey, exactly. And I said that.
What you felt like, okay, we talked, like there was a vibe. I'm gonna ask.
Yes. Yeah. And there's also been times where it hasn't worked, and but it's very easy to tell. Like the person starts wiping down their weights when you're trying to talk to them. There's no presence, and then it's really awkward, and then you kind of just have to figure your way out of that one because. And then
it's just like cool, nice to talk to you, like nice, like walk away. You don't then ask for the phone number, right? If you're like not getting the vibe.
Yeah, I didn't. I still did that. I got the Instagram and then I got blocked. So I got blocked the next morning. All I said was, "Hey, it was nice to meet you. Would love to grab coffee," and I got blocked. So you know what? That's okay. You live and you learn. The feeling of regret of not doing something is always worse than going up and.
I completely agree. And so she blocked you? Like it's a story now, whatever. Like you don't know her. She's maybe not someone you even want to spend time with. She might be not saying she's horrible because she blocked you, but. She might not even be a fun person. No sweat off your back.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was a little. I was like, dang, that was felt a little
Extreme.
harsh. Felt a little harsh at first, but maybe there's something more behind it, you know. And that's the thing is like you don't know what people are. You don't know their experiences. Maybe
Yeah.
she's had creepy guys in the past that she's met at the gym that have, you know, you just don't know. And I love that before of what you said around like the 80-20 rule. I think that's really good, especially for people like I relate this back to actually my co-host sitting next to me and myself as two people who don't. Well, he doesn't drink at all, and I really don't drink much, and I've stopped over the last few months. Like I think that kind of weeds you out of the dating apps when you put like no, I don't drink, especially like on all those things. I think that kind of like naturally weeds people out. Like they see that, and then, so I think it's even more important to go meet people and like find communities in person, because I think so much of, I mean, you're the expert, not me, but I think so much of Hinge is just centered around like, I don't know, going out for a drink, going out to the like meeting people at the bars, and so I've just realized as I've strayed away from alcohol, struggling to find other outlets to meet people. I know you're a big pickleball player. Pickleball could be one place, but just any reaction to what I just said?
Yeah, I think whether you drink or not, it's really important to develop hobbies and community outside of bars if you're looking to meet a girlfriend or a boyfriend. Even when it comes down to approaching, what do you have in common with somebody at a bar? What do you have to talk about besides the fact that you're both at that bar? And then it's like, how was your weekend? Do you live around? You can't, I'm not saying you can't. You absolutely can meet someone at a bar, and people do it all the time. But if you're at a yoga studio or at a meditation event or at a pickleball, game, or literally any place else that is someplace that's a hobby you enjoy and she's there as well, you have a built-in conversation starter. You already know you have something in common, and depending on the location, there's already a certain amount of trust built in if you both attend there or you both go there regularly. So it just becomes much easier to create connections. And also, I feel like oftentimes when you end up dating someone, you have some degree of connection. So it might not be like directly, you play pickleball and you meet your girlfriend at pickleball, but you meet a friend there and then he invites you to a birthday party and then there's girls there. The idea is you're expanding your community and social circle, and that is going to get you in front of more like-minded people. And that's where you're going to have more opportunities to find someone to date.
And I just met someone at a meditation yoga class, and actually, just a friendship, but still, like, I think it showed me that, like, if I just go and put myself out there in places that feel right to me and go actually talk to people that are in these places, like, I think the sky's the limit, but you have to be willing to put yourself out there a little bit. And so I guess kind of leads into a question. I'm sure you have plenty of men that are like, well, I want to go up to this person. Ideally, yeah, of course, but like I can't get myself to do it. Like I'm so scared of being rejected or whatever it might be. Like, how do you coach someone through that process?
Yeah. So it really when I'm doing one-on-one coaching, at least, it really depends on who they are and where they're coming from. But in a broader sense that I would talk to with anybody, it's don't start with approaching women that you are attracted to. That's a really hard place to start. Are you confident starting conversations platonically with random people, with somebody at the cashier at the grocery store, or a guy, someone of the same sex, or a woman who is older, a grandma, someone you're not attracted to? Practice opening conversations, talking to strangers in those environments, because like I've said, the key thing is you need to build connection and trust before you ask for a phone number to get the best results. So you can start building connection and trust with anybody. You're not, you can do that with a grandma, and it doesn't mean you don't ask for the phone number. It's just like, well, I hope you have a wonderful day, and you move on. And get comfortable with that before you start putting pressure on yourself to approach a woman you're romantically interested in and ask for her phone number.
I mean, that's brilliant. I'm a sales coach, and I just love the coaching advice in general of like start small, right? Like when you think about baseball, like we will practice our swing on a tee where the ball's not moving.
Yeah.
We take our swings at fastballs, and like I think that's just such an important message broadly, whether it's dating or otherwise. It's you don't have to start to accomplish the big grand thing that you feel scared of. Like start with baby steps, start with something small. I have never thought about that from a dating perspective or an approachability skill perspective. So that's really wise.
I naturally do that. I'll shut up I love talking to people at the front desk of the gym. because it does just kind of build that, like, the ability to walk thought free from your head. And also it does make I will say, to your point, I didn't do it for that reason, but I will say it's made the quote unquote what I view as more challenging ways of going up to someone or approaching someone a little bit easier. Now it's still hard. Like, I went up to someone the other day to get him on the podcast, this like big macho guy at the gym, and like, I'm not going out to ask him on a date, but I am asking him, just approaching him cold, like, hey, tapped him on the back, hey, I think I know you, your name is X, would you like to come, here's my name. And that's hard, like, that's hard to do, but by doing those and getting those reps, it just becomes a little bit easier.
Absolutely. And, if you have never approached somebody and you're someone who's shy and you just go for the hottest girl you've seen, you're probably not going to be putting your best foot forward. You're going to feel awkward. You're going to feel uncomfortable. That's going to show. And then you're going to get rejected, or she's not going to be interested. And then that's going to tank your confidence. So working up to it and building up that confidence is just going to help you get better results also.
Yeah, I love that. It's like almost like a compounding negative effect if you don't do it the right way, and it doesn't just not solve the issue; it makes the problem worse. I want to pivot to some of your content thematically. I went through as much as I could, and a lot of it speaks to the signs that she's either into you, that she's not into you, that she wants to be approached, and it all just kind of came back to this idea of like, she's giving you signals and signs. And I just laughed a little bit because I think about from the man's point of view, like when you're in the locker room or when you're hanging out with the guys, it's very much like we're too dumb for these signs at times. It's just like, I don't know, she's crazy, or like, I can't understand why she just called me to talk for 20 minutes and talk about nothing, From your point of view, it's like, it's because she likes you, and it's like this whole thing about signs. Whereas I feel like we're maybe as men, and this, again, a heterosexual man, is like, we're maybe expected to be more direct, more forward, less subtle. Is that by design? Like, where does that come from? Is this like a game that, what gives in some sense?
So we could go way back and talk about evolutionary biology, or we could go like a little less, like all the way back and say, scientifically, women are actually oftentimes the ones who give the first signal, and then it's up to men to pick up on that signal and actually do the approaching. And that is how it is in a lot of the animal kingdom and over the course of, hundreds of thousands of years. If you even take it back to, I guess this is like less about what exactly you asked about, but in terms of who is expected to do the approaching and the heavy lifting, whether it's humans or another animal, it's the man. And so when guys are like, oh, like women like should be doing this more, or should be approaching more, it's like, that just isn't the way that we have been programmed over a very long period of time. And to further that, women are the scarcer resource. I'm not even just saying that because like there's more men on dating apps, but women face much higher costs for romantic interactions. They have a baby for 9 months, they would grow a baby for 9 months, and then, potentially 18 years that they're expected to care for this. Men don't have that same resource constraint. They can spread as many sperm and as many women as they want. And obviously, okay, yes, there are repercussions now if you're like thinking about logistically, but they don't actually face any physical costs from that. So taking that back to like evolutionarily, it makes a lot of sense that women are going to be more they are going to see someone they're interested in, but they aren't going to be the one aggressively pursuing. They expect to be pursued, and then they also are the one who gets to pick ultimately.
So it's the more feminine thing to do, like the signaling, and it's the more masculine thing to do is like the approaching. I guess for like the feminine, so is that like you're the woman in the room, like when you've given your signals or when you've had friends give their signals, right? Is that like very intentional and conscious? Like, oh, I'm going to give the signal, or is,
I actually rarely.
Is it instinctual?
It's more of a subconscious thing. It's more like glancing over. Yeah, sometimes girls go out and they're like, okay, I want to like meet guys, and I remember going out when I was single and being like, oh, like with my girlfriends, being like, let's go out, like not necessarily let's exclusively like go out to meet guys, but like let's go have fun, and we'd be like, why aren't guys talking to us? Like my girlfriends still say that all the time. It's like, guys never approach us. And it's like, they are out there wanting it. And that doesn't mean every woman out there is like going out to be approached, but I did a survey of 13,000 American and English and women from the UK, and 98% of them, which I thought was no, 95% of them said that they wanted to be approached more often, and 98% said that they would rather meet their partner in person than on a dating app. That is, I knew it would be high, but that's like really high.
Guys, I mean, if you hear that and you're not like, the next time you go out to the bar, it won't be me, but the next time you go out to the bars and you hear that and you see a group of women, go.
I also
Or
wonder,
not even
like,
just a bar, day-to-day life. You're at
right.
an event, you're at a meditation retreat, you're on the subway. And I say this with caution, but not all approaches are created equal. This doesn't mean walk up, hey, I saw you, can I get your phone number? Again, I'll say it again because it's so important. You have to learn how to, you have to approach appropriately to have success approaching, and you need to learn how to create connection, build trust, and then ask for the phone number or the date. And you're still, even if you're doing it all right, you're still going to get rejected a decent amount. That's just part of it.
If you had to guess a third data point in that study, let's say, of the 13,000 women, of the men that do or have approached them, like what percentage of those men did they deem were like qualified, so to speak?
I have no idea. I couldn't even begin.
This guy's getting into.
I guess
Well, I just want men to like feel like they can go and that they're worth enough to go and approach the woman. I just feel like
But you're worth it just by being you.
Yeah.
good point. Good point.
And to be, you're going
If
to
she
get
rejects
rejected.
you, you're still worth it. She
Right.
might be a lesbian. She might be in a relationship. She might be not over her ex. She might not
Totally.
date guys who look like you for whatever reason. But she's one of a billions of women who great. Okay, one less woman I have to worry about like making a connection with. Checked her off the list. On to the next.
Yes, if you approach a lesbian, there's a 100% fail rate. With a straight man, yes.
Hey, but
I guess
maybe you
what
make a
I'm
new
alluding
friend.
to more is like this whole fear of being not in someone's league, so to speak. And I think that's a lot of the restraint is like I'm confident, but I'm confident in like my sandbox of my league, so to speak. And I'm just wondering. Sometimes I think guys can overplay that a little bit.
Yeah.
And yes, there's deep down self-worth issues, but like I'm just speaking from like a surface level, that whole league concept.
So I'm not gonna lie and say like, yeah, you can have any girl no matter like if you're confident enough. That's just simply not true. But the good news is you can level up yourself to start if you want to date women who you find more attractive or who are more appealing to you that you currently feel are out of your league, level up. Spend some time leveling up, and she's no longer out of your league. The good news is women care way less about what men look like than men care about what women look like. There are so many other ways. Yeah, you do need to be, if you want to date a woman who's physically fit, you need to be physically fit. If you want a woman who has clear skin and white teeth and shiny hair, like you have to also have those things most likely. You don't necessarily need to be at the same level, but those are things that are within your control. Start going to the gym, get your teeth whitened, like level up your appearance and make sure your clothes fit well and you keep them clean and ironed. These are things that are within your control. And then, there are so many other, that's just physical appearance, but get a job you're passionate about and you can speak to that you love. Spend time with people you admire and doing things you love. These are things that, get funnier. Go to improv class, take a stand-up class, take a class on storytelling so you are a better communicator. Get a dating coach. Level up and you can start dating women that you used to think were out of your level.
Have you done improv? Sorry, I did. I used to do improv for a while, so
No, I haven't, but I tell my clients to all the time.
you got homework, Blaine. You got.
I know. I should. You're the second person to ask me that recently, and I'm like, no, absolutely not.
How much of all of what we're talking about would you boil down to like authenticity? Like I always like to say, authenticity always wins in the end. Like if you go in and you are totally yourself, what's meant to be will be and what's won't.
Yeah.
Like you will attract the right people and whatever, and the people you won't, and that's okay. So like I guess how much of this, when you're kind of going through everything and looking at like the dating world, just boils down to being able to just embrace your authentic self?
I think that is huge. I think that is absolutely necessary to be successful dating. But I think it's also important to note you can get better at authentically marketing yourself.
Ooh.
Something I see with guys is they can be sometimes they're too humble. Like they're going on a first date and she only knows what you tell her on a first date. So you're not going to be bragging and boasting because that comes from a place of seeking validation, but you do want to be able to speak honestly and openly about your accomplishments and things that you enjoy and things that happen in your life that are going to be like, wow, like this guy's really interesting. It's really cool that he does X, Y, and Z or has accomplished this. And that, again, that's still being your authentic self, but especially in the day and age of social media and dating apps where everybody, not just women, have a queue of people or more distractions, a step away, it becomes really important to be able to stand out on that date and make sure she sees you for who you are, all of your great qualities, and as a suitor, not, I say suitor versus sidekick, not like, oh, a lot of my clients get this a lot. Oh, he's a really great guy. I just don't see a romantic connection, or I just don't feel a spark, because they aren't doing a good job of authentically marketing themselves as a suitor. And that's a learnable skill.
That might be one I need to learn, because I'm gonna ask a question like, can you, on that topic, can you be too vulnerable on a first date or a second date? And the way I ask that is because I'm an open book. I'll share, and I'm proud of everything I've done and what I do, the whole spiel. So I'll share, I'll go wherever I feel I want to go. So can you overshare? Can you be too vulnerable on the first date?
Absolutely. And I see guys make this mistake. They're like, we had a great first date. It was 8 hours. And I'm like, you are leaving no mystery. You want to be like an onion. You want her to pull the layers back and be discovering who you are, not just sharing everything on a first date that leads to being like, what's left to know about this guy, and especially, I don't know what you're sharing, so I'm not saying like this is your problem or like you're doing this wrong. I have no idea, but something I see is there are so many things that someone might share that on a first date is like, ooh, that's like kind of like, I don't like that, or like that sounds like a lot to take on, or a red flag or whatever. But if you had shared it on a third date or a fifth date, or once there had been some connection already formed and she knows more about your great qualities, it's like, oh, that's not a big deal. Or like, that's just part of who he is. And that was a learning experience. That's actually like interesting or has added value to his life. So when you divulge something, in addition to how you share it, or can have a drastic effect on how it is received.
Might need a dating coach, guys. I'm,
you're over two.
No, I mean, I knew you. I think I kind of knew the answer, but I wasn't sure of the perspective, and I think it's a really interesting one. Yeah, that's it. Because I had a really good date. It was 5 hours. It was supposed to be an hour. It went 5 hours. Did all this extra stuff. It went amazing. Blah blah blah. And then it didn't end up working out. And maybe that's why. Maybe I gotta kind of hold in. You guys don't get to know me. You guys don't get to know all me yet. You gotta earn that. You gotta earn that on dates 2 and 3.
And this is even like, you asked earlier, are women like obviously are intentionally doing these things, or is it subconscious? A lot of what I'm describing is her taking you in subconsciously. Whereas like if you just clear your schedule and are willing to hang out for 5 hours, maybe you guys are having a good time in the moment, and again, subconsciously that signals that you don't necessarily have a lot of other stuff going on, where if you're like, this has been so fun, I'm really excited for it to see you again, but I've got to go, I've got a meditation class, or I've got soccer practice, or I've got this thing with my friends. That shows you have boundaries, that you respect yourself, that you have respect for the other things in your life, that you're not prioritizing a stranger over everything else. And you're leaving a little mystery. You're letting her, and this goes, I think, for men and women, you're leaving something to think about until the next time you meet up.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. Just the idea of like setting boundaries and non-negotiables and discipline. There seems to be a lot of overlap between being a dating coach and being a life coach, which, you tie a lot of the concepts back to things like that, like setting boundaries, having confidence, being authentic. Mm-hmm. So I'm just curious, like, have you noticed that you're found that you're coaching people more than just dating, that you're coaching on things that are serving them just life broadly?
Yeah, some of my favorite testimonials are, wow, I signed up for this course or to work with Blaine to improve my dating life, and it turns out I'm better at my job and communicating with my family, and like my life is generally better. And I'm like, yes, like I love that, because a lot of the things I teach are about leveling up your life, or at least, yeah, how you live it and how you communicate about it. And that is going to be helpful across the board. It's definitely going to help your dating life, but it's not isolated to just that.
So if you could give just one piece of dating advice for guys, like the biggest take, like what you would want everyone to know, and slash like, well, actually, let's start there, and then I have a follow up. But like, just one piece of like the most important. What would you say?
Yeah, so this isn't necessarily like a piece of tangible, actionable advice, but I would say you need to embody the fact that single women want to meet awesome single women want to meet awesome single guys. So they want to meet you. And that should play into how all of your interactions go from there.
Yeah, and then kind of follow up to that. When people go on your profile, social media, like, what do you want people to take away? How do you want them to feel as they're scrolling through and after they've kind of gone through your profile, or when they see a post pop up?
Yeah. So I hope that a lot of my tips do give actual tangible advice. Say this, do this, text this, walk up to her with this in mind. So I hope they look at my page and feel that they have the ability to take action in their dating lives and see improvements.
I'll throw you a bone. I clicked on one of Blaine's pieces of content here. The label was Hot Habits for Guys. I was just curious. I just clicked on that one. There's 3 simple things. I think you do all 3 of them.
Let's go.
I think I do all 3
super
of them.
excited.
Maybe not as consistently, but I want Blaine to elaborate on this. For our audience, 3 habits that are hot for guys or make guys more attractive. 1, walk outside without your phone. Read 30 minutes before bed. And 3 was to initiate platonic conversation. We talked about the third one quite a bit. I'm assuming the read 30 minutes before bed just makes you smarter and more interesting of a person.
Yeah, more things to talk about.
Yeah. Can you elaborate on the first one? Because I really want people to hear this. It's just I'm starting to think more and more about like being more connected to nature, just being more aware of your surroundings, being more present and like kind of with the universe versus like always in our screens.
Yeah.
So I just want to hear your perspective on how that's not just impacting us generally, but even socially.
Yeah, I mean, well, you just nailed it. Everything you just said, is the exact reason to leave your phone behind. You're missing out on so much of what is happening around you if you have your phone. Okay, you're waiting for a coffee, you're waiting for the waiter to come over. Everyone's instinct is just to pick up their phone, immediately start entertaining themselves on their phone. And when you do that, you're missing everything that's happening around you. Where if you don't have your phone, you're forced to look up, sit up, look around, catch somebody's eye, make an observation about something interesting, or see an opportunity to talk to someone. You just miss out on so much more when you have your phone with you.
Yeah, it's great. There's so many opportunities for conversation, for social interaction. I don't walk without my phone, so that's good. But I do walk without AirPods, anything in to try. And I just made a post on this. I haven't posted it, but I created a post of this today on a walk, and I said I really challenge people to walk without any sort of agenda. Like I know it's great to like listen to a podcast or talk to a friend or whatever it might be, but sometimes I think it's great to just walk and be present. Like feel your footsteps hitting the sidewalk. On meditation. Like notice. There's so much we don't notice. Like notice 5 new things on your same walk that you do every day. Notice like the wind. It sounds cliche, but I think it's really powerful in becoming more present, and it allows you to soak up that present moment, and also like find the most random opportunities. Like I've gotten a few of those, and it's led to more platonic relationships, or at least a platonic type conversation. But those are some of like the most fulfilling conversations ever, and I think that's a great. I like the thanks for the bone, by the way.
Yeah, I figured. Well, I bring it up, and also because I have to kind of carry my phone with me because it's the key to my building. It's kind of a bougie thing, but it will also kind of shine a light on your addictiveness to your phone when you try and attempt this, because subconsciously I'm just reaching in my pocket to pull my phone out, and I don't have a reason why. It's just this idea or this habit, this brain circuit of just constantly pulling my phone out to just check the screen.
Totally.
So I think, do it because there's so much upside to what Matt and you just alluded to, but also it'll shine some light and wake you up a little bit to just how addicted you are to your phone.
I totally agree.
So, what has been the most challenging part of your journey? And if you can be as narrow or as broad as you'd like in terms of whether it's just with dating with Blaine or if it's your life. But what's been the most challenging part? And then on the flip side, what are you most proud of?
Mm. So, let's see. I can say what I'm most proud of is hands down the results my clients get. I'm getting wedding announcements. I've gotten some baby announcements recently, which is crazy. And it is why I do what I do. It warms my heart hearing guys say, I was struggling with this, this thing before. You have changed my life. I have met my person. Because I think you can have you can have so much going on in your life and you can be truly really happy, but nothing is then going to elevate your life to the next level like having a partner you're excited to share it with by your side. And so I love that I can help guys find that person for themselves and have that. And then the most challenging part is like running a business is hard, man.
Don't say
It
that
has
to me.
ups, it has downs. Yeah, I know you're taking on coaching full time, and
Yeah.
get ready, it's a roller coaster.
But and that's what I hear all the time. But I also hear that which I think is kind of what you alluded to, which is it is more fulfilling than anything you could find in like a 9 to 5. I mean, for the most generally speaking,
Yeah,
which is what you just said. Your most proud moment is seeing the results of your clients, and like, that's why I'm choosing to do what I do, because I love seeing people unlock a version of themselves that was always there, but they're able
yeah,
to finally tap into it, and like seeing this just like totally transformed person like fills my heart that nothing else could provide.
totally. I completely agree. It's absolutely worth it. I would do it 100 times over. But there are days where running a business is really hard.
Yeah, I think that's the trade-off. Do you have anything
I
else?
like I remember once on Instagram I posted something, I was sharing something personal. I said, I think I was like, oh, I'd been slacking on going to making it to the gym and going to Pilates because I'd been really busy. And I noticed my baseline anxiety had increased so much. So I really made an effort for a few days in a row to get back to Pilates and yoga. And I said, and I really noticed the effects of my anxiety. And I remember someone DM'd me, not that I should even take any stock in when anyone DMs or comments, because like I don't. I get a lot of crazy stuff on Instagram. But they're like, what could you possibly have to be anxious about? And it's like,
Oh,
what do you like? What? You don't know me. And even if you'd seen every post or every Instagram I'd ever put out, like if you're speaking about somebody else, like that's their highlight reel. That's their business. That's what they want you to see. That has no, basis on what they're actually feeling inside or where if they have anxiety or depression or anything like going on with their mental health. And I was so like, wow, it's 2024. I didn't know people still like thought that way. But okay.
hurt people hurt people. I mean, I just had I just had someone bash me for my coming out, and like, how could you hide in the closet, yada yada yada. It's like, if you only knew, you think I enjoyed having the biggest secret of my life just bottled up inside of me for 26 years of my life. Like, oh yeah, that was super fun.
Wait, what was
um
it?
so my relationship with my sexuality, like I came out as bisexual maybe a
Oh,
year and a
okay.
half ago,
Uh-huh.
and it was something that I had hid. Nobody knew, and so point being, to still see people like lack the empathy to understand
Yes.
just like what comes with that, the feelings of shame and all that stuff that arise from that.
Yeah.
And I think it just goes to show, like, hurt people, and hopefully that also, what Blaine just said, hopefully that also shines a light on the idea that, like, it doesn't matter how many Instagram followers you have. It doesn't matter how famous you are. It doesn't matter how much money is in your bank account. Like, at the end of the day, we are all human beings. We are all imperfect. We all have problems going on in our life at some point or another. And so hopefully that just shows people that, like, hopefully makes them feel less alone. I think I'm really glad you shared that, because again, I think it just helps people understand that, like, it's okay to struggle. It's actually very human. It would be inhumane to never struggle, to
Yeah.
always not be okay.
Yeah. And props to you for, sharing that about yourself and your sexuality, not just like with friends and family, but on an open platform where you are putting yourself up for judgment and for comments from other people. So I think that's really admirable.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I was also going to thank you, Blaine, for being somewhat transparent and vulnerable about like your social media as your highlight reel, and I think that's hard to remember at times. I want to take a little bit of a pivot here, and maybe this is one of our final questions, but one of your pieces of comment or content, and some of the recent conversations we've been having made me really think, and I'm just wondering if some people are at this crossroads as well. I found my own answer here, but I want your point of view. One of your pieces of content talked about, this is advice to men: if the girl cheats, do not go back to them. And it was like this all capital, like, do not by any means ever go back. And then in your caption you wrote like some exceptions to the rule and some gray area situations, but just going with this idea of like, do not go back to them. Some of the conversations we've been having has been around being a forgiving person and how healthy it is to forgive. I want to understand your point of view on like, how do you reconcile the two between dealing in a relationship where one person is cheated with also you yourself trying to be a forgiving person?
Yeah. Well, I think there's kind of two things there. You can forgive somebody for cheating or for hurting you, and it doesn't mean you have to get back together with them. Because I think forgiveness means it's not weighing on you. You're not angry about it. Because ultimately, that's, if you're holding on to hate for someone, that's punishing yourself more than anybody else, and bringing that into your space. And then whether or not you get back together with someone is so nuanced to every situation. It would be impossible. I say sometimes I'll have clients be like, you said this thing on Instagram, but then you said this thing to me. And I'm like, okay, Instagram, I have like 30 seconds to give a piece of advice that's going to catch people's attention, which I often will have like a further explanation in the caption. People will be commenting like, you didn't read the caption then, So yeah, whatever, I obviously the content I'm putting out on Instagram, I feel is directionally correct, but there is just so much nuance that goes into any one big decision, like getting back together with an ex. But the theme is, if somebody hurts you, that person probably doesn't deserve you.
Yeah, and that was the same conclusion I came to, which again just goes back to setting that boundary for self-respect. I ended up thinking through this, and I was like, wait a second. So I ended up Googling the word forgive. Like, what does it mean to actually forgive? It's quite simply to stop feeling angry or resentful towards the person, the event, the situation overall, etc. And so it's really just about protecting how you're feeling about the situation, but does not necessarily insinuate that you need to accept them back into the relationship. Like, you're not indebted to this person to do that because you're forgiving them. And I don't know if you've come across men who maybe struggle with that concept, or people who struggle with that concept, but I thought that was an important one to dissect a bit.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. Forgiving is going to alleviate you from the feelings that are potentially holding you back or bringing you down.
Yeah. Okay, Blaine. First, we got 3 rapid fire questions for you to wrap this up. Okay. The first one is, and actually, thank you so much for coming on and for sharing so much thoughtful advice, being vulnerable, being open. It's so appreciated. Very grateful. First, best piece of advice that you've ever been given, or just a favorite quote?
Oh, favorite quote. When you want something, all of the universe aspires to helping you achieve it. Paulo Coelho.
I like it. I like that. That's a little.
You were quick with that one. Cited and everything.
Yeah, I was thinking about it too as you were saying it. I like that a lot. Okay, secondly, if you could have dinner with anyone in the world, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh, wow.
Is that a good first date question?
That is. I think you should ask at the beginning, but you can answer at the end of the date.
I like that.
So I didn't meet one of my grandmothers, and I would want to have dinner with her.
Okay, that's good. There's sometimes there's answers that we haven't heard before. I'm like, whoa, and then we'll get the sentimental ones too, and I think we've heard that plenty of times too. That's very sweet. Lastly, just like I know one of them is pickleball, but like, what do you like to do in your free time? Hobbies?
Yeah, so anything with my dog. I like to go on hikes. I like to go on walks. Pickleball, like literally obsessed with pickleball right now. I've been playing multiple times a week. I love yoga. I love Pilates, really anything active. And I'm a huge traveler, always have been. I worked in the travel industry, and I still love to travel and experience new people, new cultures, new food.
Thank you very much, Blaine. We really appreciate you having on. And we're going to sign off, guys.